I came home early one Tuesday, arms full of groceries, expecting Lisa to be mid-flight to Dallas. That's what she'd told me, some last-minute roster shuffle. But there she was sprawled on the couch, scrolling her phone like she owned the day. The air thickened as I stood there, bags crinkling in my hands. "Flight got delayed," she said without looking up, her voice too casual, like she'd rehearsed it. I nodded, played along, but something gnawed at me. Lisa's a flight attendant. Delays happen, sure. I'd spent enough years as an Army officer to know schedules shift. But her eyes darted away too fast, and that flicker set my radar pinging. I'm Ethan, 38, married to Lisa for 6 years. She's got this smile, bright, disarming, the kind that makes you forget your questions. We've got a daughter, Sarah, 21, living in England, but it's just me and Lisa most days, her jetting off while I hold down the fort. But that delay excuse? It wasn't the first time her story didn't line up. Last month, she'd missed a connection in Miami. Only I'd seen a boarding pass stub for a flight she swore she never took. Small stuff, easy to shrug off. Until it wasn't. So I asked, how long's the delay? She mumbled something about weather, still glued to her screen. I set the bags down, heart ticking like a countdown. Therefore, I decided to check her airlines app myself. Public info, right? Typed in a flight number she'd rattled off last night. Clear skies, on time, landed an hour ago. My stomach twisted. She wasn't delayed. She was here. But why lie about something so easy to verify? I glanced at her, lounging there, oblivious. Or so she thought. That's when I noticed her phone buzz, a text lighting up the screen. She flipped it over quick, but not before I caught the name. Derek. My mind raced. Derek, her pilot buddy, the one she always mentioned in passing. Too much passing, maybe. I didn't say a word. Not yet. Lisa and I met 7 years ago at a dive bar near JFK. I just finished a stint overseas, Afghanistan logistics, the kind of gig that leaves you wired and weary. She breezed in, uniform crisp, laughing with her crew, and spotted me nursing a beer in the corner. "You look like you need a story," she said, sliding into the booth. Her confidence hit me like a shockwave. By the end of the night, I was hooked, her tales of turbulence and layovers painting her as some globe-trotting goddess. Sarah was just 14 then, still stateside, and Lisa's charm made me think we'd build something solid. But now, that flipped-over phone twisted those memories into a trap. She dazzled me with details, dodging drunk passengers, napping in crew bunks mid-flight. I'd eat it up, picturing her life at 30,000 feet while I rebuilt mine on the ground. We married a year later. Sarah moved to England for college at 18, and Lisa kept flying. But lately, her stories had holes. Flights she couldn't recall. Names she'd dodge. Derek's name, though, that one stuck. Captain Derek Russo, she'd call him. Best pilot I've worked with, she'd say, always with that half-smile. I'd never met him, just nodded when she'd ramble about his cool head in a storm. But that text glowing under her hand, it wasn't work stuff, not with how fast she buried it. Therefore, I started replaying every mention of him. The late-night calls she'd taken the hall. The emergency shifts that didn't match her pay stubs. My grandfather, God rest him, used to say, "Trust the compass, Ethan. When it spins, you're lost." It was spinning now. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I waited till she hit the shower, then grabbed her phone. Passcode was still our anniversary. Cute, right? One message from Derek. "Missed you up there today." Up there. In the air. Where she wasn't. My pulse hammered. She hadn't flown today. So what was he missing? I set the phone back, exact same angle, and let the question burn. What else was she hiding from me? And Sarah? Lisa's phone became my obsession after that. I didn't touch it again, not right away. I'm not some rookie who'd blow his cover. Years in the Army taught me patience. Watch, wait, strike when the target's blind. But every night, I'd catch her typing, smirking at the screen, then locking it when I'd walk by. "Just crew chat," she'd say, voice smooth as runway asphalt. I'd grunt, act indifferent, but my insides churned. Derek's name was a ghost now, haunting every excuse she fed me. And the excuses were stacking up. More delays, more last-minute swaps. She'd always been a night owl, blaming jet lag. Fair enough. Her job's brutal, bouncing through time zones. I'd seen her crash after red ice, out cold for hours while I'd call Sarah in England to check in. But this was different. She'd slip out to the porch, phone pressed to her ear, voice low. I cracked the window once, caught her laughing, soft, flirty, not the tired drone of a work call. "You're ridiculous," she'd said, then hung up fast when my shadow hit the glass. She claimed it was her sister who lives in Boise and hates phones. Right? Therefore, I started tracking her patterns. She'd vanish to run errands on days she wasn't flying, back with no bags, no receipts, just that same vague smile. I'd ask how her day was. She'd shrug, say boring, and pivot to some tale about a rude passenger. Classic deflection. But then came the kicker. I found a boarding pass in her coat. LAX to Paris, dated last week. She told me she was in Chicago, grounded by a storm. Paris, with croissants and wine, and Derek? My mind spun wild pictures. Them clinking glasses, her giggling at his dumb pilot jokes while Sarah and I were none the wiser. I stewed on it all night, her asleep beside me, oblivious. The next morning, she kissed my cheek, said she had a quick hop to Atlanta. I smiled, kissed her back, and watched her roll her suitcase out. But I wasn't letting it slide anymore. I grabbed my keys, waited 5 minutes, and followed her. If she was lying again, I'd catch her red-handed. Tailing Lisa felt surreal, like I'd slipped into some low-budget spy flick. I kept 2 cars back, her silver Honda weaving through traffic toward the airport. My Tacoma's old, loud, but she never glanced up, too busy on her phone, probably texting him. I checked her roster that morning, hacked it through a buddy who still dabbles in tech. She wasn't scheduled today. No Atlanta hop, no nothing. Just a blank slate where her quick trip should have been. But here she was, dressed in her uniform, heading to the terminal like it was routine. I parked in short term, slung a ball cap low, and trailed her inside. The place buzzed, announcement crackling, kids screaming, suits rushing gates. She moved fast, badge out, skipping civilian lines. I hung back, blending with the crowd, my pulse a steady drumbeat. Then I saw it. She bypassed check-in, didn't head to a gate. Instead, she slipped through a staff door marked crew only. My gut clenched. If she wasn't flying, why was she here? Was she meeting someone? Derek? While Sarah thought her mom was just working. Therefore, I found a spot by a coffee kiosk, eyes locked on that door. 10 minutes later, it swung open, and out she came, with him. Derek. Tall, slick hair, pilot stripes on his shoulders. They laughed, her hand brushing his arm, his grin too wide for just colleagues. I ducked behind a pillar, breath shallow. Context hit hard. Lisa always bragged about crew camaraderie, how they were family up there. But this was no family reunion. This was a date in plain sight. I snapped a photo, blurry, but clear enough. My hand shook as I zoomed in. Her smile, same one she'd used to reel me in, was all for him now. But then they split off. She headed to the parking lot. He lingered by a gate. I hesitated, follow her or him. I picked her, jogging to catch up. She climbed into her car, oblivious, and peeled out. I tailed her again, straight home. She walked in, kicked off her shoes, and waved like nothing happened. Flight canceled, she sighed. Canceled? I just seen her with Derek. My voice stayed calm, but inside I was boiling. Derek Russo wasn't just some name anymore. He was a face, a laugh, a hand on my wife's arm. I dug into him that night, while Lisa slept, her soft snores mocking me from the bedroom. Airline forums painted him clear. 42, ex-Navy, flew 737s like they were toys. Crew loved him, charismatic, cocky, the guy who'd buy rounds after a rough leg. But whispers lingered too. Sleeps his way through the roster. One anonymous post sniped. Caught him with a purser in the crew rest module once, another claimed. My jaw tightened. Crew rest. Those tiny bunks mid-flight. Was that where Lisa was sneaking off to while Sarah called me from England? Clueless? I'd heard her mention those spots before. How the long hauls had secret rooms for naps. It's cramped, but cozy, she'd said, eyes sparkling. I thought it was cute back then, her little high-altitude hideaway. But now, picturing her tangled up with Derek in one, mid-ocean, while I sat home like a sap, rage simmered low, the kind I hadn't felt since Kabul. Therefore, I cross-checked her past flights with his. 3 overlaps in 2 months, JFK to Rome, LAX to Sydney, Miami to London. Too many for coincidence. Next day, I played dumb. She was prepping for a red-eye to Dallas, chatting about turbulence like it was normal. I nodded, sipped my coffee, and asked, "Derek flying that one?" Casual light. Her spoon froze mid-stir. Maybe. Not sure. She mumbled, eyes on her mug. Lie. I'd already seen his roster. Same flight. But I smiled, kissed her goodbye, and let her roll her suitcase out. Then I waited. That night, I called an old Army pal, Mike, who'd gone private security. "Need dirt on a pilot," I said. He chuckled, promised to poke around. Hours later, he texted, "Your guy's slick. Layover king. Hotels, bars, the works. Crew says he's got a thing for flight attendants." One swore they hooked up in the air. My vision blurred. Lisa wasn't just cheating. She was doing it 30,000 feet above me. But Mike's next line stopped me cold. "Heard he's got a side piece overseas, too." Overseas? My mind flashed to Sarah. Sarah's name lit up my phone the next day, her voice chirpy through the static. "Hey, Dad. How's Mom?" she asked, oblivious as ever. I'd always loved our calls. Her life in England was a bright spot, studying art history, chasing dreams. Lisa and I barely saw her since she moved at 18, but she'd gush about London, her flat, her tourism guide boyfriend she kept vague. "He's sweet, works odd hours," she'd say, dodging details. I'd tease her about it, but now, with Mike's overseas bombshell ringing in my ears, my throat tightened. Was Derek her guy? I'd never suspected Lisa's mess could touch Sarah. She was our kid, smart, independent, calling me weekly while Lisa flitted through the skies. But Derek's roster overlapped with London flights. Miami to London. Last month, same day Lisa was stuck there. Coincidence? My gut said no. Therefore, I called Mike back. "That overseas thing, any details?" He hummed, digging through his notes. "Just rumors. American girl, early 20s, lives in the UK. Pilot's a dog, plays everyone." My heart sank. Sarah fit the profile. That night, Lisa got home all breezy smiles. "Dallas was a nightmare," she said, unpacking her bag. I watched her, silent, replaying every lie. She denied Derek yesterday, froze when I'd asked, but here she was, acting like nothing. I couldn't shake the image. Her with him, mid-flight, laughing, while Sarah might be tangled in the same web. But I needed proof, not theories. "How's Sarah?" Lisa asked, casual. Too casual. "Fine." I grunted, testing her. Her smile flickered. Did she know something? Therefore, I hacked her crew portal again, deeper this time. Flight logs, hotel bookings, anything. Found a receipt. 2 rooms, Rome layover, Derek's name on one, Lisa's on the other. Separate, sure, but the dates matched a call from Sarah saying she'd met Mom's friend there. Friend. My blood ran cold. Lisa was covering tracks, but not well enough. Derek wasn't just her fling. He was a wrecking ball through my family. I clenched my fists, staring at her asleep. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Hacking Lisa's portal became my nightly ritual. Her passwords were predictable, stuck on Sarah's birthday. I'd sit in the dark, laptop glowing, piecing her life apart while she snored down the hall. Found more. Hotel bookings in Sydney, London, Rome, all matching Derek's flights. She'd play the tired wife at home, but her digital trail screamed betrayal. I cross-referenced dates with Sarah's calls. Too many lined up. Like that Rome trip. Sarah had chatted about a cool guy she'd met through Mom, someone in the airbiz. I'd laughed then. Now, it was a punch to the gut. Lisa's lies weren't new. I'd caught small ones before. Late crew briefing. She'd say, lipstick fresh at midnight. I trusted her, chalked it up to her chaotic job. But this was a system. She'd built a double life, and Derek was the cornerstone. Therefore, I confronted her that morning, casual-like over coffee. Saw Derek's name pop up a lot lately. You too close. Her mug clattered, subtle, but I caught it. Just work, she said, eyes darting. He's on my routes. Liar. I smiled, let it drop. She left for a Portland run that afternoon, another roster blank. I stayed calm, waved her off, then dug deeper. Found photos online. Some airline gala, Derek grinning, Lisa on his arm, caption best crew ever. Timestamp. Last year, when she claimed Sarah visited her in New York. Sarah never mentioned a gala. My mind raced. Was Lisa dragging our kid into this? But then I found a bigger clue, an email from Derek, buried in her trash folder. London next week. Bring her too. Her. Sarah? My chest tightened. I called Sarah, kept it light. How's that boyfriend? She giggled. Busy. He's flying in soon. Flying. My grip on the phone whitened. What's his name? I pressed. She hesitated. First time ever. Oh, just David, she said too quick. David? Derek? The pieces clicked, but not fully. Therefore, I booked a red-eye to London myself. If Lisa was weaving Sarah into her affair, I'd see it firsthand. I packed light, told Lisa I had work travel. Her relieved nod only fueled me. This was war now, and I'd win. London hit me like a slap. Gray, damp, a far cry from Lisa's sunny tales. I landed at Heathrow, jet-lagged but wired, my army instincts kicking in. Sarah didn't know I was coming. Kept it a surprise, said I'd drop by when I called from the gate. She'd sounded flustered but agreed. I'd rented a cheap flat near her uni, close enough to watch, far enough to stay unseen. Lisa was still in Portland, or so she thought I believed. But her flight tracker pinged her in London too, same day as Derek's route. Convenient. I'd grown up on my grandfather's wisdom. Truth hides in the quiet, Ethan. Listen for it. He'd been a colonel, tough as nails, and I'd followed his path till I burned out. Now that training steadied me. I scoped Sarah's street. Narrow, student-heavy, her flat on the second floor. Saw her through the window, laughing, phone to her ear. Then a guy stepped in, tall, dark hair, moving easy. My breath caught. Derek? Too far to tell. But my gut screamed yes. Therefore, I tailed him that night. Sarah left her place, met David at a pub. I hung back, cap low, nursing a pint. Up close, it was him. Derek Russo, smirking, leaning in as she giggled. My daughter, with my wife's lover. Rage clawed me, but I stayed cold. Years of recon taught me control. They didn't see me, too wrapped up in each other. But then Lisa walked in. Lisa, in London, not Portland. She hugged Sarah, pecked Derek's cheek like it was normal. My beer glass nearly cracked in my hand. I snapped pics, shaky, dark, but damning. The three of them, cozy as a warped family. Context crashed in. Lisa hadn't just cheated. She'd fed Sarah to this creep. Why? To keep him close? To cover her tracks? Therefore, I followed them out. They split. Sarah home, Lisa and Derek to a hotel. I stood outside, rain soaking me, watching their silhouettes in a window. My family, shredded by this sleaze. I could have stormed in, fists flying. But no, revenge needed precision. Derek wasn't just ruining my marriage. He was wrecking Sarah too. He'd pay for both. Watching Lisa and Derek vanish into that hotel gutted me. I trudged back to my flat, rain dripping off my cap, replaying Sarah's laugh with him. She was 21, an adult, sure, but still my kid. Lisa had raised her to trust, to see the best in people. I taught her to spot danger. How we missed this. I pulled up those pub photos on my phone, zooming in. Sarah's smile? Pure, unguarded. Derek's, smug, predatory. Lisa's, calculated. My army days flashed back, spotting liars in a lineup, knowing who'd break. Lisa was breaking me now. Next day, I called Sarah for coffee, kept it light. Met her at a cafe near her uni, her turf, her rules. She bounced in, bubbly, no clue I'd seen her with him. How's Mom? She asked, sipping a latte. Busy, I said, forcing a grin. You? She rambled about classes, then slipped. David's here this week. Might see Mom too. My fork stilled. David, huh? What's he do? She shrugged. Tourism stuff. Travels a lot. Tourism. Like flying? I nodded, let it simmer. But then she got a text. Her face lit up, fingers flying. Speak of the devil. She laughed. I peeked, couldn't see the name, but the timing screamed Derek. Therefore I pushed. Ever meet Mom's crew? Like Derek Russo. Her eyes flicked up wide, then down. Maybe once. Why? Lie. She'd inherited Lisa's tells. My heart sank. She was in deep. Maybe didn't even know it. I dropped it, paid the bill, hugged her tight. Love you, kid. She hugged back, clueless. Back at the flat, I dug through Lisa's emails again. Found one from Derek, weeks old. She's perfect. Keeps it fun. Sarah? My stomach churned. Lisa wasn't just cheating. She was pimping our daughter to this guy. Why? Control? Thrill? I paced, fists clenched, picturing Derek's smirk. But then Mike called, voice low. Got more on your pilot. Crew's talking. Says he hooks up mid-flight, brags about it. And that overseas girl? Word is, she's connected to his main squeeze. Main squeeze. Lisa. Connected. Sarah. It clicked. This was bigger than betrayal. It was a game. And I'd end it. Sarah's David. Lie stuck with me. A splinter I couldn't pull. I stayed in London, shadowing her while Lisa and Derek played house. Next night, I caught them again. Dinner at some upscale spot, Sarah tagging along like a third wheel. She looked happy, oblivious, while Lisa and Derek traded glances over wine. I sat across the street, hood up, snapping pics through the window. My daughter, caught in their web. I trained men to spot traps in war zones. How'd I let this one grow under my roof? Mike's call came late, his voice gruff, urgent. Ethan, your pilot's a piece of work. Found a stew who talked. Says Derek's got a thing for younger crew. Brags about family ties. And that overseas girl? American. Lives in London. Crew thinks she's a side gig, but he's sloppy. Main girl might not know. Main girl. Lisa. Side gig. Sarah. My vision tunneled. Therefore, I hit the airline forums myself. Anonymous posts confirmed it. Russo's a dog. Caught him the crew bunk with a vet FA, then flirting with her kid next layover. Vet FA. Lisa? Her kid. Sarah. I called Sarah that morning, casual, testing her. Hey kid, how's David? She chirped back, great. He's flying out soon. Might crash with mom next trip. Crash with mom. My jaw locked. Ever meet his work friends? I asked. She paused. Not really. He's private. Private. Like a guy juggling two women in one family. But then I heard it, a man's voice muffled in her background. Gotta go, Dad, she said quick. Love you. Click. That voice, smooth, familiar. Derek. Therefore, I tracked Derek's next flight. Heathrow to JFK, tomorrow. Lisa's roster synced, same route. I booked a ticket, same plane, back row. Wanted to see them in action, feel the betrayal up close. Boarded late, cap low, watched them work the cabin. Lisa smiled at passengers. Derek strutted from the cockpit. Didn't see me. But then Sarah texted, Miss you, Dad. David says hi. David. Hi. My phone shook in my hand. He was with her now, while flying with Lisa tomorrow. This wasn't just cheating. It was a sick triangle, and I'd snap it apart. The plane hummed at 35,000 feet JFK bound, and I sat in 32D, cap low, watching Lisa glide down the aisle. She poured coffee, flashed that disarming smile, same one that had hooked me years ago. Derek emerged once, cocky strut, nodding to her like they shared secret. They didn't see me, didn't know I'd heard his voice with Sarah yesterday. My daughter, 21, bright, trusting, caught in their slime. I gripped my armrest, replaying her David says hi text. He was juggling them both, and I was the fool funding Lisa's half of it. I'd checked our accounts before takeoff. Years as an officer made me meticulous. Lisa's work expenses had ballooned. Hotels, dinners, cash pulls in London. She'd said it was overtime pay lagging. Bull. It was my money fueling her layovers with Derek, maybe even Sarah's dates with him. Context hit like a brick. Sarah's calls often mentioned treats from mom's friend. Fancy meals, gifts. Derek? Therefore, I pulled my phone mid-flight. Wi-Fi's a curse up here. And dug into his socials. Found a buried post. Him at a London bar, Sarah's uni hoodie in the background. Dated last month. Lisa passed my row, tray in hand. Our eyes locked. She froze, smile twitching. Ethan, she squeaked. Surprise, I said flat. Her face paled, but she recovered, muttering about checking the galley. Derek poked out then, saw me, and ducked back fast. Cowards. But then Sarah called, mid-flight, bad timing. Dad, you're in the air, she chirped. Yeah, with Mom. I said loud enough for Lisa to hear, 10 rows up. Sarah giggled. Say hi to David for me. He's flying today. David. Derek. My blood boiled. I unbuckled, stood, and headed for the galley. Lisa intercepted me, voice low. What are you doing? Checking on my family, I snapped. She grabbed my arm, desperate, not sweet. Don't make a scene. Too late. Therefore, I dialed Sarah back, speaker on, and said, Hey kid, put David on. Lisa's grip tightened. A man's voice crackled through, Derek's unmistakable. Hi Ethan. Lisa's jaw dropped. The cabin went quiet. Checkmate. Derek's hi, Ethan, echoed through the phone, a tinny confession at 30,000 feet. Lisa's hand fell from my arm, her face a mask of shock, eyes wide, mouth slack. Passengers craned their necks, sensing drama. I held the speaker up, letting his voice hang there, a noose tightening around them both. Sarah, I said, calm as steel, you're with David now? She laughed, clueless. Yeah, he's visiting. While he flew this plane with Lisa. I locked eyes with my wife. Her shock morphed to despair, then flickered to rage. She knew I knew. Derek burst from the cockpit, co-pilot trailing, his swagger gone. Hang up, he hissed at me, voice low, panicked. Funny, I said, loud enough for row 32 to hear. You sound just like the guy on Sarah's line. Lisa lunged for my phone, but I yanked it back. Tell me, Derek, how long you been playing my daughter too? Gasps rippled through the cabin. His face drained, pale, sweaty, a deer in my crosshairs. It's not, he stammered. Save it. I cut in. Sarah's voice chirped again. Dad? What's going on? Context hit her late. I could hear it. Ask your boyfriend, I said, then ended the call. Lisa grabbed my sleeve, pleading now. Ethan, stop. You're ruining everything. Everything? Her affair? Her lies? Sarah's trust? Therefore, I turned to Derek, stepping close. You slept with my wife mid-flight, then moved on to my kid. Classy. A passenger filmed it, good. Let's spread. He squared up, bravado flickering. You've got no proof. But I did. Pulled my phone, showed the Rome hotel receipt. His name, Lisa's, same night Sarah met Mom's friend. His eyes darted to Lisa, betrayed. You said he wouldn't. She cut him off, shrill. Shut up. Too late. The co-pilot radioed something. Emergency protocol. Maybe. Passengers whispered. Phones out. I leaned in, voice ice. You're done, Russo. He shoved past me, back to the cockpit, but the damage was live, viral bait brewing. Lisa sank into a jump seat, sobbing. I didn't care. This was just the start. Sarah deserved truth. Derek deserved ruin. And I deliver both. The plane landed at JFK, chaos buzzing like static. Passengers disembarked, whispering, some still filming. My showdown with Derek and Lisa already trending on X. I stayed back, watching Lisa slump off, mascara streaked, avoiding my glare. Derek bolted from the cockpit, uniform rumpled, barking at crew to handle it. Handle what? His career imploding? I made sure of that. Before we touched down, I'd emailed the airline. Anonymous tip, screenshots attached, hotel receipts, flight logs, that gala pic of him and Lisa. Subject, Captain Russo's conduct. Check. Sarah blew up my phone. Texts, missed calls. Dad, what's happening? David's freaking out. David. Derek. Her innocence cut me. 21. Too young for this mess. I'd raised her to see good in people. Lisa'd exploited that. But then I called her, steadying my voice. Sarah, listen. David's Derek Russo. Mom's pilot. He's been with her and you. Silence. Then a choked sob. No way. I hated breaking her, but she had to know. I've got proof, kid. I'm sorry. She hung up, crushed. Therefore, I tracked Derek post-flight. He stormed through baggage claim. Phone to his ear. Yelling at Lisa, probably. She'd vanished, likely dodging the fallout. But I wasn't done. Mike had dug more. Derek's ex-crew pal spilled. Mid-flight hookups, bragging about bagging a mother-daughter duo. Sick prick. I forwarded it all to the airline, CC'd the FAA. Pilots can't fly with that heat. Safety risk, they call it. His wings were clipped already, but I wanted him grounded for good. Next day, Sarah texted. He admitted it. Said Mom set us up. I'm done with them. Set up. Lisa'd pimped her own kid to keep Derek hooked. My stomach turned. I replied, You're enough, Sarah. Always were. She didn't answer. Hurt too deep. But then the airline called. HR, stern. We're investigating Russo. Multiple complaints now. You involved. I played dumb. Just a concerned husband. They'd suspend him pending review. Standard. Good. But not enough. I paced my hotel, plotting. Derek had torn my family apart. Sarah's trust, my marriage gone. He'd feel it back. Something permanent. Something he'd never fly away from. Derek's suspension hit the news 2 days later. Pilot probe for misconduct splashed across aviation blogs. X lit up too. That cabin video racking millions of views. Lisa ghosted me. Phone off. Probably holed up somewhere licking her wounds. Sarah wouldn't talk either. Just a text. Needs space. Fair. I'd shattered her world to save it. But Derek? He was still breathing easy, dodging real consequences. Not for long. I'd spent years in the Army breaking bigger men than him. Logistics wasn't just moving crates. It was outsmarting chaos. He learned that. I tracked him to a bar near LaGuardia. Mike's intel spot on. He sat alone, hunched over whiskey, looking smaller without his stripes. I slid in across from him, casual. Rough week, Russo. His head snapped up, eyes bloodshot. You, he snarled. You ruined me. You ruined yourself. I shot back, leaning in. My wife. My daughter. You thought I'd let that slide. He smirked, weak. Lisa came to me. Sarah was just... I cut him off, slamming the table. Finish that, and you're done right here. He flinched, bravado crumbling. But then he laughed, bitter, sloppy. What's left? I'm grounded anyway. Not enough. Therefore, I laid my trap. Heard the FAA's digging now. Mid-flight misconduct's a felony if it risks safety. You bragged about those bunks, right? His face froze. He knew I had him. I'd recorded our cabin fight. His stammering half-admission. Sent it to Mike's FAA contact. At assault, I said. And you're not just grounded. You're jailbait. He lunged, fist swinging. I dodged, grabbed his arm, twisted it back, old combat reflex. Bar went quiet. I shoved him into the table, hard. Glass shattered. Whiskey soaked his shirt. That's for Sarah, I growled, then slammed him again, chair splintering under him. That's for Lisa. He wheezed, crumpled, as bouncers rushed in. I stepped back, hands up, self-defense clean. Cops came, hauled him off, his career toast. Assault charge on a suspended pilot? FAA'd bury him. The captain who tore my family apart will never fly again after I shoved him into that table. And the system finished him. I walked out cold, satisfied. Derek's arrest hit X the next morning. Bar fight, resisting, the works. FAA yanked his license by noon. Permanent, citing pattern of instability. He'd never fly again, not even a puddle jumper. Lisa surfaced too, called me, voice shaky. You didn't have to destroy him, she said. Destroy him? He'd shredded us. Her affair, Sarah's heart, my trust. You did that, I snapped. You handed Sarah to him like a bonus. She sobbed, no defense left. I thought it'd keep him with me. Sick. I hung up, done. She lost everything. Me, Sarah, her game. Sarah finally called that night, hoarse from crying. He's gone, Dad. Blocked him. Mom, too. I exhaled. First relief in weeks. You're stronger than them, I said. She laughed, weak. Learned it from you. Maybe. But I changed too. No more blind faith. The Army taught me to fight. This taught me to win colder. I moved to a new place, cut Lisa off legally. Divorce papers filed, her betrayal ammo for full custody of my peace. But then an email pinged. Anonymous, no subject. Opened it. Photos of Lisa in Miami, arm around a new pilot, grinning. Dated yesterday. A note. She's back at it. My gut twisted. She learned nothing. Just swapped Derek for fresh meat. Therefore, I forwarded it to Sarah. No comment. She texted back. Unbelievable. I'm out. Good. Lisa could spin her web alone now. I'd cut every thread tying me to her. I stood on my balcony, city lights flickering, replaying Derek's fall. That bar shove wasn't just fists. It was every lie he'd fed my family, every smirk he'd flashed, crashing down. He'd hit the table, then the floor, then rock bottom. Assault rap, license gone, name trashed. The captain who tore my family apart will never fly again after I shoved him into that table, and I'd made it stick. Satisfaction settled in, sharp and quiet. Sarah'd heal. I'd rebuild. Lisa'd chase her next mark till she ran out of sky. Me? I'd sleep, fine knowing I'd grounded her puppet for good. No regrets. Just a new compass. Trust myself, no one else. Thank you for diving into this wild ride with us. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world are you watching from right now.